The woman, upon seeing the supposed monster on the ground, asks if it is her son. He, upon seeing her, gets emotional and calls her mom. But the woman changes her expression, terrified by what she sees, and recalls the moment she found him injured. At that moment, she was surprised. But when he mentions that he is an awakened, she hugs him while he says he wants to become a hunter to give her a good life. The woman secretly was nervous and somewhat scared. In the present, the young man crawls toward the woman while calling her mom. This frightens her and she begins to flee. The supposed monster screams that it is him, that he is her son, Kangji, struggling to reach her so he can grab her arm. This causes the woman to fall, and the boy asks if she does not recognize him by the bone armor. It is then that he decides to take off the armor, starting to remove the bones that formed it, which, by the way, were fused with his skin. However, the woman asks him to stay away, revealing that he had injured himself on purpose to prove he was her son. It is then that Lucas arrives and asks if his mother's story was all a lie. At that moment, he raises the Bible while activating his power. He screams that this is blasphemy and is just about to attack them both. Ji-hyun cuts off his head in a single movement. The head flies far away, and from it emerges a smoke that advances toward the young man and enters his body through his mouth. In the brief silence that follows, something strange begins to happen to Ji-hyun. Out of nowhere, he completely changes his personality and, staring into the void, says in a sweet tone, "Mom, I'm your good." In another time and place, a woman reflects that she likes strong men and despises the weak. As an example, she remembers those who couldn't endure her whims and left her. That's why she loves Lucas. She repeatedly says how much she likes him, wishing to be one with him. Shortly after, she awakens her abilities, heading to the church and thus entering the hunter's body, becoming one with her host. In the present, that's her motto, take what you desire, and that there will always be a man stronger than Lucas. It's the best. But then she begins to perceive something and realizes they are her host's memories. In the past, Ji-hyun wakes up and, approaching his mother, asks where she's going. Upon hearing him, the woman begins to run, or rather flee from him, under the rain. Her son, desperate, tries to follow her, but sadly slips in the water and falls face first to the ground. He screams, begging her. The woman gives him one last look before continuing to flee. Then, under the rain, the boy keeps moving until he collapses on the ground, pleading with her not to leave. He begs her to stay with him, reminding her that he's her son, and wonders why she's leaving him. He questions whether she's leaving because he's to blame for his father's death, or perhaps because his parents are disgusting. Or maybe because he's a monster. It's then that he fixes his gaze on a broken bottle. And apparently, he makes it, ready to start hurting himself, something he does. Over and over again, he kept hurting himself, unable to stop. He kept telling himself he could do it, cheering himself on while shouting his name. That's when his mother found him after returning. The young man, filled with guilt, apologized to her, confessing that he couldn't get rid of it as it kept growing, showing her his arm, wrapped in a layer of. While his mother looked at him horrified, he asked what he should do. Moved, she hugged him and apologized to him. In the present, the woman who had possessed him with her ability was awakening in the boy's subconscious. She reflected on what had happened and concluded the mood was crazy. However, she accepted this reality, thinking that with that body, she would be free. She began to move freely, but suddenly felt something strange and started writhing. She screamed that it was a curse, that the pain was unbearable. She felt how parts of the exoskeleton had embedded into her organs, how her muscles were twisted, and, to top it off, part of her intestine was torn. Despite the pain, she told herself she would heal and force him to do it. What she didn't know was that healing hurt. She feels that every second hurts and wonders why this is happening. Then he tells her to leave, revealing that, in reality, the woman is trapped in the palm of his hand, inside his subconscious. After that, the woman immediately begins to move to leave the boy's body. Once outside, she asks for a moment to wait. However, before she can say anything else, she is cut in half. After doing so, the young man begins walking toward his mother, unaware that Lucas's head starts to glow.